and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm Elena Casas. Our focus today is on investing in the cybersecurity industry, and our guest is Keith Gangl, Portfolio Manager at Gradient Investments. The investment thesis for cybersecurity is well established. Only yesterday, Microsoft said it had alerted more than 600 of its clients of potential hacking this summer by a Russian agent. It follows the damaging SolarWinds hack in 2020 that led to attacks on US Fortune 500 companies and government agencies, including the Pentagon, as well as the ransomware attack that paralysed the Colonial Pipeline earlier this year. So the real question for investors isn't whether this is a growth sector, but how to capitalise on it. Here are examples of two ETFs that track this space. This one, the Global X Cybersecurity ETF, includes US, Israeli, British and Japanese firms. It's up 18% this year, so that's lagging the 22% gain for the wider S&P 500. While the First Trust Nasdaq Cybersecurity ETF contains only US-listed firms. It's managed to keep pace with the wider market, and it includes more well-established companies, including Accenture and Cisco Systems, in addition to some of the same companies that make up the Global X. Well, for more on how investors should approach this space, I'm now joined by Gradient Investments' Keith Gangl. Hi Keith, thanks for joining us. Doesn't this sector represent some of the challenges of thematic investing, given that retail investors might have done better investing in an S&P 500 tracker fund this year?
Yeah, the space has been pretty good, but the overall markets itself, like you mentioned, are up 22%, so it's a hard hurdle to beat. But we like these security names going forward, and we think the growth rates will be higher than the overall market. We think the space is growing 10 to 15%. And with that growth, we think we'll have better performance going forward. So the reason we like the space in general is because of the data transformation going from digital to online. As that goes from online, there's more opportunity to get hacked. Also mobility, as mobility becomes more important, as people want their information on their devices away from the computers, such as your cell phone, that's more opportunities for the data to get hacked. A third driver in this is actually work from home. As more and more people work from home, it's become more important for data to be protected by the corporations, these different endpoints. So that's another key driver for them. And lastly, like you mentioned, is ransomware. Ransomware is becoming more important for the overall global economy. These hacks can actually shut down economies, and it's important for security companies to actually fill that void.
Well, as you said, we're all exposing ourselves to lots of opportunities to get hacked. But aren't these companies facing a losing battle in that they're fighting mostly state actors who have unlimited resources?
Yeah, that's true. But look, if we don't actually protect ourselves and our data, the economies will completely shut down. Corporations, the most important things they have are their people and their data. So when the data gets hacked, it's exposed, whether these companies are actually going to destroy the data or expose the data, these companies' ability to survive will actually go away. So they need to invest in security. And that's why we think it's a very important area for these companies to invest in. So in the US alone, the ransomware attacks have been up threefold versus 2020 versus 2019. In the UK, I just read it was up twofold. So this is a very hot area for attackers. The reason it's hot is because there's easy money to be made. And that's why we like to invest in security companies to actually protect these companies.
What about the older players in this space like IBM or Cisco Systems? Do they make more sense than recent startups?
Yeah, those are great companies that have been around for a long time. The history of IBM has been more of a mainframe company. And as we switch from mainframes to servers, and servers are going from on-prem to offline to actually mobile, they don't have the ability of some of these more newer small companies are. Their DNA is actually looking at mobility, identification, authentication. So these are areas we like to look at, and we think these smaller companies are mobile and can actually get the job done better than IBM or Cisco.
Among these new smarter companies then, what are your top picks and why?
Some of the names we like a lot are Palo Alto and Varonis. Palo Alto is a large enterprise company, and they're actually the next generation company. They're actually, the breadth of their solutions is superior to everybody else. They literally just passed Cisco this last couple of weeks, and they're the number one network security player. The growth rate's over 20% for the next several years. They have a great management team, and we think this is a high quality name to own right here. The smaller cap name we like a lot is Varonis. This is due to data protection. UK and the US is very important, right? We've seen Facebook, privacy acts. In the UK, you got the GDPR, which is a general data protection regulation. As that becomes more and more important, they look at companies like Varonis that helps protect individuals' information and where it's residing and who can see it and who can't use it. So Varonis is a great way of playing that. And that company is growing 30% plus next several years.
Thanks so much. That was Keith Gangl, Portfolio Manager at Gradient Investments. Well, before I go, here are some of the top stories in this space. The Financial Times has reported that Britain's spy agencies have given a contract to Amazon Web Services to host classified material in a deal aimed at boosting the use of data analytics and artificial intelligence for espionage. It said Britain's GCHQ championed the procurement of a high-security cloud system from Amazon, and it will be used by sister agencies MI5 and MI6 and the Ministry of Defence. Separately, the FT reported on Monday that GCHQ is looking to deploy its own hackers to target ransomware gangs after the number of ransomware attacks doubled in the UK in 2021 compared to last year. The US State Department plans to establish a Bureau of Cyberspace and Digital Policy in the face of the growing hacking problem. It will be led by an ambassador to be confirmed by the US Senate. 2 weeks ago, the Treasury Department said suspected ransomware payments totaled $590 million were made in the first 6 months of this year. And finally, insurance broker Marsh says the price of cyber insurance has doubled in the US. It said premiums rose 96% in the third quarter in the United States and 73% in the UK, driven by the frequency and severity of ransomware claims. That compares with a 15% rise in global commercial insurance prices. And that's your roundup of the cybersecurity sector. I'm Elena Casas, and this is Reuters.